We're back. Oh, get ready to wonk out on this one. From the Metro State University of Denver. That's a nice title. Good friend of ours, Alex Padilla, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, most econ departments in most schools tend to be a little left-leaning. You push a program that is very free market oriented. Would I say that?
Pushing a program might be a strong term.
You have to be careful. We're in the world of academics.
We try to teach economics like most economists teach economics. Actually, I will argue that most economics departments are not most really left-leaning. They are more mainstream, and they tend to be more like, they try to think like scientists more than humanitarian department or social sciences like sociology or history.
You do something called exploring freedom, and it's interesting because economists love to talk in ways that normal people don't understand. And economists are awful in trying to get moral thoughts out with their graphs and their analysis and their numbers, but there's really a lot of principle behind what they're trying to say on lots of issues.
Well, most of those graphs have already some basic assumption about the type of institution we have, right? If we do a supply and demand, we have to assume that transactions are made voluntarily. You have to assume that property rights are well protected and well enforced. You have to assume many things which are related to ethics and morality and legality and institutions. I believe that economists don't like to bring ethics into the picture because it's a very dangerous, for them they think it's dangerous and it's slippery slope that is much more difficult to address because it involves emotions. Some people tend to be very personally affected by some of the issues. So they are more comfortable addressing things in terms of numbers, which is helpful because people tend to be more convinced in general by numbers than by just talking around.
So I remember the supply and demand graphs. I remember the Laffer curve. I know the labor graphs. I mean, I get those theories, but we forget it actually works in real life too. You've got a reputation for sticking up for markets that other people don't want to stick up for. I'll give you a case in point and help me out with this one. In this state, we are passing a ban on what's known as powdered alcohol. Now, this is it's like Kool-Aid mix. You put it in water, you mix it up, and you have an alcoholic beverage. But kids might get some of this. What's amazing is it's not even on the market. The Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Department hasn't let it out yet. So we are ahead of time in this state saying you can't have that. And we're doing the same thing in many local governments with e-cigarettes or vaping, saying you can't have these vaporizers. You can't have private clubs where people voluntarily enjoy these, I'll call them vices, but these activities, these free associations. Now, most economists have a hard time graphing something like that, but from an economic point of view, what are these issues?
Well, the main issue is that if you try to prohibit a good like that, you may have a likelihood that you are going to have what we call a black market, illegal market. And what the government supposedly is trying to do is to prevent children to access those type of products when actually that's when those markets emerge, that children or young teenagers or young adults access those products, because then people that sell those products are trying to maximize their profits. And they are going to try to maximize their profit by increasing their sales by selling to whoever is demanding the product. If you legalize a product, you want to maximize your profit and you want to keep your clientele and you have a reputation to maintain. If you start having the reputation of somebody who is selling to children, trying to take advantage of children, people won't buy your product and you're less likely to be selling the product. So
when something is on the black market and a deal goes bad, it's hard to go to the police and say, I gave money for this weed and he didn't deliver it. Or I paid this prostitute, but she didn't deliver the services. I want to go to the Better Business Bureau or file a complaint. You can't do that. So when these things are legal, you can. Is that basically?
That's correct. And when things are legal, you have more suppliers, more competition. And one way to track your consumers, I was talking about that to my students, you cannot make profit in a legal market if you don't serve your consumers what they want. And therefore, in a legal market, you have what we call pressure from all the competitors to try to capture your sales, your consumers, and try to get your consumers to buy your product. In an illegal market, you have fewer competition. And the way you get rid of your competition is not by lowering their prices or offering better quality, is via violence, by killing them. And
what we found during Prohibition in the 20s.
That's correct.
That it just went underground. Talk to me a little bit about Colorado's experiment now with legalized marijuana. You know, this is an emotional issue. Some people, it doesn't bother them at all. Some people are seeing it's getting more into the hands of kids. There's more overdoses. There are social costs that a pure free market economists don't put into the equation. This is affecting young lives. These brains are not developed yet. They don't fully develop for years. Kids are smoking marijuana, maybe getting hooked. It's a gateway drug. It's hurting them. So from an economic point of view, banning this, keeping it away from kids as best we can, helps them develop into better individuals. The social cost wins.
Well, one way to understand that is to look at counterfactual evidence and compare to other states that didn't legalize marijuana. And you can see actually that states that didn't legalize marijuana, that didn't legalize medical marijuana, have a higher rate of teenage consumption than in Colorado. So since Colorado legalized marijuana, I have not seen, and I might be wrong, nothing, I can miss information and data. There's no really good data that shows that actually there's an increase in teenage consumption. The small data we have shows actually that teenage consumption of marijuana has been decreasing.
Well, let me repeat that, make sure I understand you through that accent. And
yeah, that's okay.
I can tell a Texan accent when I hear one.
Yeah, I know.
You're saying that Colorado usage among teenagers of marijuana has gone down since we have legalized it.
Yes, there's some data that show that. Yes. And
do you believe that?
Yeah, I do believe that. Actually, what I do believe is that now that you legalize marijuana, those sellers of marijuana have less incentive to try to target children to sell the marijuana. They have a bigger market. They have tons of adults they can sell. If you want to keep selling your drugs, or your marijuana in that case, not your drugs, but the marijuana, you have to have a reputation of somebody who is relatively honest, that's in good quality to people, and that you respect the law. I think the law says that you have to be 21 and older, I think, to consume marijuana, or 18 and older.
You know, all right, weed is tough because it's hard to regulate and it's easy to get around. Something that takes more infrastructure, let's say e-cigarettes or vapors, you know, where you can use these vaporizers to smoke basically steam. Now, it's not marijuana; it's an alternative to a cigarette. We're finding municipalities saying, no, we don't want that because it's too much like smoking. We don't want it in restaurants and bars, or we don't even want you to be able to sell it because there's social costs involved. You know, why are they wrong?
Well, first of all, I would like to see the evidence that electronic cigarettes are worse than regular cigarettes. And I think people that try to ban electronic cigarettes, don't have real evidence that electronic cigarettes are worse because you don't, and the other side I talk about when I talk about electronic cigarettes is that you are just pushing people outside your town, right? If you don't want to allow e-cigarettes in your town, people are going to smoke it outside your town. And in other words, it's going to hurt the businesses. As an economist, I say let market works. I mean, if people really value a tobacco-free environment, an e-cigarette-free environment, they will come to your business. And if not, they will come to your business if you allow cigarettes, and if they value tobacco-free, they will only come to your business if they allow cigarettes. They
Alex,
don't allow
thank you.
cigarettes.
We're out of time, but I appreciate it. We'll light up a cigarette later. Thank you. Check me out on KL Radio. Check out the Independence Institute, independenceinstitute.org, and we'll see you next week.